All right, it is time to bring in one of my favorite guests ever, and I mean ever. A guy that I've grown very close to over the years, a guy that believes in not only our product, but believes in the young ladies on his team and the community that he represents. He is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best dressed men in the entire area, especially on the YSN network. He is the leader of the South Range Lady Raider basketball team, Jeff Fishel. What's up, buddy?
Man, thanks for the intro. I wasn't gonna wear a suit tonight, but I feel like now I got to rush to the dry cleaner and get something for tonight to wear.
Well, let's start there, okay? Because for those people who've never really understood why, walk me through the suit selection. I mean, obviously, it's something that you kind of inherited through the years. You want to dress to impress. How did the suits and the suit selection become a thing for Jeff Fishel?
Yeah, and first of all, DJ, I just want to echo your sentiments about Anthony. So happy to hear that he's on the road to recovery, and hopefully you're tuned in. I tell you, South Range Nation was blowing everybody's phone up, worried about you and praying for you. So keep recovering, and we look forward to seeing you soon. But Tyler Bates, who used to be the coach at Loudonville, him and I were buddies. And Loudonville's red and white school colors, and he came out his first game in this all red suit, and I loved it. And so I was like, man, I'm getting an all burgundy suit, and wore that. I think the first home game that I ever coached in here, and I remember I did like the Superman thing where in warm-ups I didn't have it on, and then when we went to talk, I went in the locker room and changed in the office and came out, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" and kind of went crazy, and just kind of built from there. And anybody that knows me, I like to be a little bit ridiculous, so get online and find the craziest things I can get.
We've seen some ridiculous suits over the years. Do I recall a cowboy hat at one point being worn on the sidelines?
Cowboy hat one game. We played Niles that game, and believe it or not, that was a request from their players that they wanted to see me do something ridiculous for their game. So it comes from everybody. But yeah, there was a cowboy hat. Now I wasn't going to coach the game in the cowboy hat, but everybody asked me to. So again, I did it. Ridiculous.
Big fan of that. There's also the Christmas outfits that you use. We kind of detailed during the Christmas, right before Christmas. You had they were green pants, but they were like, what were they? They were corduroy, velvet.
Yeah,
velvet pants, and the beautiful coat, the beautiful jacket as well. So do you ever feel like you get a lot of laughs, you get a lot of attention for that, which is awesome. We love it. But do you ever you ever draw the line? Have you ever had a moment where you're like, no, I'm not doing this?
Yeah. The one thing that I don't like is sometimes it feels like if I wear a crazy suit, it's like I'm trying to draw the attention to myself, and I never want to take the attention away from my girls. So, there are certain times and situations where, I want to make sure that that's not the case. But honestly, I think when I wear a suit, it gets our girls excited. They know it's a big game. They understand what's happening, and it's something that they enjoy. So, definitely don't want to cross that line of taking the attention off of them.
And you're a guy that draws a lot of attention naturally on your own because of the kind of coach you are, because of what you've gone through, and certainly the resume that you present. But like you said, you always point that finger right back to your team, your community. A very interesting year this year for you, and the realm of you only have one senior. You have CC Foster, and you guys have kind of, and we talked about it, having to build that plane in the air kind of deal. CC being a great, sharpshooter from the outside, but you've had to really kind of play hot potato with leadership from that standpoint. And then you have a different leader seemingly on every single night. What is that like as a coach to have to pass around the leadership stick and not have that one everyday leader that every time you go out, they're going to have, the most points, the most assists, the most steals, whatever it be, and fill up that stat sheet. You kind of share the rock and you share the limelight.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, to be honest, because, we've been more balanced in scoring this year, which has been helpful. We've had different girls step up at different times that won us games. And like you said, you never quite know where it's going to come from on a given night. But the other side of that is it's a little bit frustrating because we're inconsistent, and we don't have the one or two girls that every night, we know we can just go to. And some of it's not their fault. It's how we get defended and how different flows of games go. But we pass that leadership around, and it gets frustrating because, again, we don't know where it's going to come from. But I think for the rest of the season, and like you said, we're younger, going into the future, it'll pay big dividends.
I mean, are there benefits to having, it's anybody's game kind of going into it? I mean, everybody wants to be, 26 a game and have 10 rebounds, double, that stuff. But it's a scenario, and you've had those players on your team, but is it kind of refreshing almost to say, okay, this is anybody's game? Who's going to step up and take this? And how does that help you from a standpoint of, other people having to have to plan for this particular South Range Raider team?
I think that's a big benefit, is it makes us difficult to scout. If somebody watches 3 different films on us, we may have 3 different leading scorers, 3 different leading rebounders, 3 different girls bringing the ball up the court. So it's kind of hard for them to prepare for, okay, what is South Range going to do tonight? Where's their strength going to be? Which makes us hard to prepare for sometimes. So, it can definitely be a benefit. But again, we have to have girls step up every night.
One of the coolest things that I saw the last time you guys took the floor, home floor, was you brought so much energy to the floor. And as it was almost the more energy that you brought on the sideline, the more energy was conveyed on the floor. Did you feel that during the game? And were you mindful of, okay, I've got to be able to bring the juice tonight if I want to be able to walk out and beating Struthers by 2 points?
Well, give the girls credit for that, because my energy came from their energy. And we're always a better basketball team when it's that way. If I'm the one that has to bring the energy first to get them to play, then we don't play as well. So, I thought against Struthers, we came out with the right energy, played with some great intensity on defense, and then kept our composure when things didn't look real well for them. So that always gives me energy to kind of push them a little bit further, but proud of the girls, that came from them.
Let's talk about this conference. The NE8, obviously, people look at it and they say, hey, this is a football conference, but it's seemingly just a conference that has an elite amount of talent in it in every sport. When you look at this year, it's been usually the NE8's a 2-horse race in some capacity. It is really anybody's conference this year. When you were, looking at it going into the year, the preseason preview, I guess, were you aware that it was kind of all hands on deck and it could be anybody's conference if you play your cards right?
Yeah, I remember when we did the season preview, we talked about that. And, Nick Blanche and I at Poland have talked about that behind the scenes. Like, this is wide open. And, I kind of said, like, it would not surprise me if the last place team in the league beats the first place team in the league, and then somebody in the middle beats somebody, and then somebody that they lost to beats them. And it's crazy. And sure enough, that's exactly what's happened. Any night, literally, and it's not cliche, any given night, anybody can beat anybody in this league. And, I kind of get upset because everybody says, oh, look at the NE8, this team's record, and, it must not be that good. The fact of the matter is that we're all good enough to beat each other, and this is a really strong conference. 6 of the 7 teams are at 500 or 1 game under right now in overall. And in the NE8, nobody backs down from a strong schedule. So everybody's playing a strong schedule. And I think we're all battling some consistency issues, but I think this is a conference that can put some teams in the tournament that can make some runs, because it's definitely a deep conference.
I always think it's interesting how coaches and how staffs manage, injuries, and they manage sickness, because winter sports, unlike any other, you get illness because, of the holidays, because everything goes around that time of year, hot and cold, all that stuff. How do you not overcompensate or blame yourself or point fingers to you or your staff whenever injuries happen? We saw, the flu bug kind of went around and your players played through it. Some of them had to miss some time. How do you, kind of facilitate when, you're shorthanded?
Well, we're not going to use it as an excuse. Every team has battled the flu and injuries. We've played games with key players down, and we've played games where the opponent had key players down. So I think one of the things that as important as your preparation at practice. Nobody roots for adversity, but you have to expect it. And if you're able to expect it, you can deal with it a little bit better. And you look back and like you said, you don't want to blame yourself. There are certainly some situations where we had some lineups on the floor the past few games that hadn't been together. And that's kind of our fault as a coaching staff. But like you said, we're getting text messages an hour before the game from girls who say, "Hey, I'm sick. I can't come tonight." And you don't have time to prepare. And so everybody has to rally together. It's next girl up and, no excuses.
Since you took over, I mean, since you mentioned practices, how have practices changed over the years of you being the lead dog? I mean, have you been able to, as you get older, are you less of a barker, or is it a situation where you just have seen more and experienced more, and now you understand how to handle the girls, whatever that case may be?
I haven't figured it out, honestly. And I don't know that anybody does. I think every year is a different group of girls. So, it's different chemistry lessons that you have to teach every year. And some girls react one way to, me yelling and being a little bit mean. And some react better if I'm nice and calm. And you gotta figure out how they react individually. And then kind of from a team personality standpoint, like you got to figure out as well, how does everybody react? They can sense the coach's moods, and that kind of dictates the focus at practice sometimes. So every year is different. Honestly, every practice is different, just depending on what happened that day and who we played last game, who we played next game. So it's a daily lesson.
You were a big hooper back in the day. Who do you draw your coaching influences from?
Uh, I have so many. I'm afraid to answer the question because somebody's going to get mad at me that I left them out. Coach McHugh was my coach when I played here, and so much of the success in my life I owe to him. I learned more about life from Coach than I did basketball. But appreciate him, and him and I are still good friends, and always great to see him. Bert Stellers is the guy that when I was helping him when he was a junior high coach, that he's one of the smartest basketball minds around. So just what I learned from him and the patience he took with me over 4 years of coaching with him to teach me. Those two are really important. Coach Purins gave me my first high school job. Coach Cullen, when he was here, just the things that he meant to me and the opportunities that he gave me to grow. But the list goes on and on. There's just that's what coaching is. It's kind of, you put everybody in one big family and they take care of each other. So that's why I love the game of basketball. Is I've had so many good people around me that have invested in me and cared about me.
How did you like to be coached when you were a player?
I like to be yelled at. I like to know when I wasn't doing things the right way, or maybe my head was out where it shouldn't be, and so that always kind of woke us up.
One of the things that I admire most about you is the fact that you love the community that you serve. The South Range community is so very important to you, vital to you. It's done so much for you, and you continue to give back at every opportunity you can. Why does South Range mean so much to you, and why do you have that burgundy suit and that golden tie?
I was born and raised here. I remember when I was a kid, when people would ask me, like, who's your favorite football team or who's your favorite basketball team? I would always say the Raiders. Whenever they talk football, like, oh, Oakland or Los Angeles or whatever. No, South Range. Like, it was a treat for me growing up on Friday nights. My mom would take me to the football games and take me to the basketball games. And, I remember buying the program and, so many things, so many records that are in the program, football and basketball, I used to be able to memorize, and I could rattle off South Range sports history, probably better than anybody. And it just, went to school here, and the teachers and everybody that just cared about you. If you needed something, they were there for you, always had your best interest at heart, and, made me so much of the person that I am today. And it's so important then to pay that forward. Like, now I'm in the role of I can pay back, and I can give back. And so because everybody did that for me, I think that's the only way to live life, is to keep paying that forward.
All right, since I know you're a huge sports fan as well as being a head ball coach on the sidelines, I got to ask you. There's nights, and with no specifics, I don't know specifics. I guess I don't. There's another word for it, but I can't pronounce it. Um, when it comes to officiating, we saw last night the situation in Kansas City. The officials are never going to be right. How do you handle officials, especially given the official shortage, that maybe blew a call, but you want to show grace in those moments because you don't want to set the tone for your team or hurt yourself along the way?
Well, now that I've been coaching so long, I know most of the officials. They know me. Um, I take pride in the fact that I've never had a technical. And some of our parents get on me like, why didn't you get fired up there? Why didn't you get a technical? But you know, the refs do a good job. You're always going to have 50% of the people agree with the call and 50% of you disagree with the call. Either way. So you always just try to give them grace. I think they know sometimes when it's a bad call. And if you don't say anything to them, they appreciate that. And then sometimes you just got to give them a little nudge, like, hey, I think you missed that one, or same thing happened down here and you didn't call it against them, but you called it against us down here. Like we gotta look at that and you got to get this thing figured out because we got to call it the same on both ways. And you just present it in a professional way. And then I always like to make a joke with them. Like, I can't believe I called a timeout to call this play. Like, no way we're going to execute this. And, they'll look at me after we make a bucket and like, good one, coach. So, just it's those little moments in between the whistles that you can kind of get them to understand what you're thinking.
Let's get off the floor for a minute. When you think of Super Bowl, obviously you think of snacks and food and all kinds of stuff, tailgating. What are some of your tailgating and your snack go-tos? Not necessarily for your games, but when you're watching some on TV or streaming.
Typical pizza and wings. You can't go wrong there. Jalapeno poppers are one of my favorites. Fried mozzarella sticks, another great one. And, maybe a couple cold Diet Cokes too.
Sure. Sure, the Diet Cokes. That's usually what I'm thinking too. I also hear that you have quite the atmosphere in your own homestead when it comes to watching some games. Explain to me why the man cave is so important to you.
Honestly, it's my sanctuary. Um, I've always enjoyed a good man cave ever since I was younger. And, when we built our house and had the opportunity to build a nice one, I wanted to make sure we did that. So, yeah, a bar down there, 3 big screen TVs, all the sports you can imagine. It's a place to go escape, at night and put on a game or two and sit there and relax. And, now my kids are older and they love coming down there and hanging out and making some noise. And I got to kick them out every once in a while if they get too loud. But yeah, it's a good place to watch a game, that's for sure.
Got to see your kids the other night. They're growing like weeds, dude. They're already taller than I am, which isn't saying much, but good enough for you, naturally. Last question I have for you. Speaking of family, I know family incredibly important to you. Walk me through, growing up as Jeff Fishel and some of the people that you admired and the influencers that you look to and the people that made you who you are today.
Well, it starts with mom and dad. Their parents that when I was younger, I didn't always get what I wanted, but I always got what I needed. And there were times where I was fortunate enough that I did get some of the things that I wanted. So, military dad, hard discipline, and made sure I was raised the right way, and loving and caring mom that always was nurturing to me and make sure that I was okay. And so much of my personality and how I go about my daily life comes from mom and dad. So really, DJ starts and stops with that.
How has that great childhood that you had made you a better dad today for your kids?
Well, you learn lessons. You think back, and it's hard as a parent. And as parents, always, you'll find out one day. You'll understand one day, and as you become a parent, you get that. And so it helps you kind of relay the message to your kids. Like, you understand that when you were a kid, how hard it was for your parents to discipline you and make sure you were doing the things the right way. And you didn't always understand it as a kid, but it makes it important as a parent now. Just make sure you're doing the same things for your kids.
Jeff, you're a guy that I admire so much, not only on the floor, but off the floor, especially on the golf course. One of my favorite partners in the world ever when we go out to outings. Thank you so much for all you do for not just the South Range community, for the basketball community and everybody here at YSN, my friend.
And that is nothing to do with how crooked I can drive a golf ball. It may be something to do with how crooked I can drive a golf cart, though.
That's it. You
Appreciate
always
you guys. Yep, thank you so much. And keep healing up. We'll see you soon, DJ. Love you guys. Appreciate everything you do.
See you tonight, Coach.
All right.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Fishel, again, one of the best you're ever going to meet. Nobody cares more